Have you or anyone you know been in trouble with the law? And if you'd like to explain it, go ahead.
Yeah, I have, but I mean, I guess if you really watch yourself, you're not going to get in trouble.
Not really. My friends, they're pretty nice kids, and we stay out of trouble.
Have you or anyone you've known been in trouble with the law?
Yes.
Explain.
I'd like not to.
Yes.
Care to talk about it or no?
No. Undercover.
Nothing I'm gonna say on TV, that's for sure.
No, never. No.
No.
I'm a good kid.
Yes, my boyfriend has been in trouble with the law in the past he was going through a rough time.
I got a summons to court for overage playing on a baseball field. $25 fine.
Yeah, at my school, there's a lot of people that I know that have gotten in trouble with the law.
Yeah, I don't know, most kids our age are.
Yeah, a lot of people. My school's not that good with, like, I guess drugs.
Yes, sir. I'm on parole right now. Yeah, but I'm maintaining. I mean, I'm staying out of trouble.
Yeah, I'm the same thing as him. I'm on parole and stuff, but yeah, like I know people who's got in trouble with everything.
According to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, in 1999, law enforcement officers arrested an estimated 2.5 million juveniles.
Approximately 104,000 of these arrests were for violent crimes, and the most common offense was larceny theft.
Juveniles compose 17% of all arrests in the United States, with those under the age of 15 accounting for less than 1/3 of juveniles arrested, and youth between 15 and 17 making up more than 2/3 of the arrests.
And nationwide, the number of juveniles being charged and tried as adults is increasing.
How common is it for the teenagers you know to break the law?
And what consequences have they faced as a result?
In trouble with the law, that's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Jack.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Realfaith TV.
The teens on the street were all familiar with being in trouble with the law, whether by their own experience or through their friends.
We'll talk with them again later in the show.
We'll also meet our spotlight guest Tom, who will share with us his brush with the law.
But first, let's meet our studio guests and find out if they've experienced any trouble with the law.
They are Aiden, Ujama, Kim, Anthony, Vince, and Erica.
So, have any of you guys been in trouble or known someone who's gotten in trouble with the law?
Definitely. Where I go to school, a lot of kids tend to act out against teachers or other students. It's just common.
I went through a stop sign about 3 weeks ago, got into an accident. It's pretty ugly.
Yeah, in my school, sometimes, people might, have things they're not supposed to have, and they won't get caught for it. And, you might know, but you don't want to intervene for your safety. And I also have a friend who's not even from here, and I know that he got arrested for something, like vandalism and just going out with his friends and, I don't know, toilet papering, egging, things like that. And it's sometimes annoying to just have friends who do things like that.
Yeah, at my high school, most kids, they get caught with having drugs in their locker, or maybe they have some sort of zip gun or sharp object in their locker when they're not supposed to be. I mean, it may seem harmless to them, but it's a real threat to the student's safety, so they usually end up getting in a lot of trouble, even kicked out of the school.
Yeah, I know a few people who's been kicked out for doing things like that.
The most common thing that people I know get in trouble for is underage drinking when they're at parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who, got in trouble for underage drinking and everything. And, I think everyone has the experience of, drug busting in the school and all that kind of stuff. You kind of, know when that's going on and everything. Some teenagers say they commit crimes because they're bored.
Or that they were influenced by friends in some way. They were hanging with the wrong crowd.
Next, the teens on the street tell us why they think teenagers get themselves in trouble with the law.
Why do you think certain teenagers break the law?
Because I guess it's kind of like when you're not supposed to do it, it's more tempting. And if you are allowed to do it, they probably wouldn't do it as much.
I think they're, in a way, looking for someone to help them. And also, they just need a way to vent, and that's how they vent. Whether it's vandalizing something, that's how they're venting. They're taking their anger out on that.
Just because they're curious, they want to see what's going on.
Maybe family life.
I'd say they'd want to go against their parents. A lot of parents are strict and maybe they just want to break free.
Peer pressure.
Shit. Sometimes when they're around bad people, they just do it to be cool.
Like, I know a lot of people that have it rough, and I guess they just don't have a lot of supervision, so they just go do whatever they want, and they don't know that it's bad until something happens.
So why do you guys think the teenagers you know broke the law?
Well, going back on what the other teenagers said, it's teenage rebellion. Kids want to act out because, they're going through that stage in their life where it seems cool.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Like, all teenagers go through that phase, that whole like rebel without a cause thing. And I definitely agree with that. What that one teen said. She said they were breaking free because everyone has that need to feel independent.
I think it's because mostly, there are some kids who they said on the program that they have trouble at home, and I guess maybe their parents aren't paying a lot of attention to them because it's something that's going on between the mom and the dad, and it's just kind of a way of showing them like, I exist too, pay attention to me, kind of a thing, and they kind of feel lost in whatever's going on between the parents.
I think people commit like crimes like that because not so much that they're like bad people, but because they're around their friends and they kind of want to just be able to fit in.
Yeah, I agree with him. I definitely think peer pressure is one of the main problems where they just want to fit in with a certain group.
I find it's kind of like a toddler with a toy. They get a new toy and they're kind of like, oh, look what I can do. I think that's kind of like what a teenager's saying, like, oh, look what I can do, get attention and everything. Dr. Phil McGraw, the psychologist, often says on his TV show that part of teenage development means not being able to see around corners.
He means that sometimes as teenagers, we just don't think things all the way through.
We might find ourselves at a party that's being broken up by the police.
Or find ourselves at the wrong end of a traffic stop. Or even find ourselves pressured to break the law.
We don't set out in that direction, but we somehow wind up making a bad decision or just not thinking.
Next, our Spotlight guest Tom tells us about a time he didn't think things all the way through.
And he found himself at the wrong end of a traffic stop.
I started drinking at a fairly young age. It was something that in high school it was very socially acceptable where I grew up, that kids, freshmen, even 8th grade would start drinking at a pretty early age, and there was at least twice that I can think of where I had very close scrapes with legal authorities. I grew up on a farm, and one of the things that would happen is we had a pretty big family, so part of the family would leave and I would get left home with my brother to run the farm for a weekend. And I was in high school at the time, and so was he, and we decided that Mom and Dad were going to be gone on a Friday and a Saturday. This was during the summer, so we would have a party on Friday night in addition to running the farm for the weekend. And so what happened was, probably at about 11 o'clock or 11:30 at night, we had run out of alcohol. My girlfriend and I drove into town, and we went to this gas station, and we used somebody's fake ID. I don't even remember whose it was now. And I remember in the gas station that the attendant there basically gave me a funny look, but sold me the beer anyway. And I came to find out later that the gas station attendant called the police in town and had them follow us out of town, pulled us over maybe a mile or two from my parents' farm. The first thought that I had was, oh my gosh, we're in so much trouble, and which was followed quickly by the policeman, having us get out of the car and having us do the breathalyzer, and then the whole process of the policeman is just standing there lecturing you because he knows that he's got you over a barrel. You're 18 years old and you're blowing .20 or whatever, way over the legal limit to be driving. And so you're just sitting there thinking to yourself, gosh, my life is over. But more than anything else, I was just thinking that my parents are going to kill me and that there's nothing I can do about it because I can't run now, I can't get anywhere.
It's really unfortunate that he got caught up in a bad habit when he was so young. And I definitely know that feeling, my parents are gonna kill me. Like whenever you do something wrong, that's just like that sinking feeling in your stomach. It's awful.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what he meant. Like when the cop car first pulls you over and he waits in the car for a little bit, that's like the scariest moment of your life right there. Underage drinking and driving under the influence are very common offenses among teenagers. Why do you guys think that so many teenagers choose to ignore these laws?
I'm not exactly sure. I have friends that break the law, and I say all these years of going through DARE, TriPEP, great. I just don't get it. You should learn from those.
Well, it's sort of like when your mom tells you for the moment you were born, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, but it's just, as much as they tell you, you still don't remember to do it.
And it's part of it's just part of the human person. I mean, it's the thrill of breaking the rules. Like back in the day when they had speakeasies, and a lot of them were grown adults, not just teenagers. It's just again, just the thrill of breaking the law.
And you get nervous too, like when it comes to peer pressure. Some people don't always think clearly.
Some people think the rules don't apply to them. Like they'll listen to the speaker and it'll be like, don't drink, don't drive, don't do drugs. Then they'll think, oh, I'll never do that. And it just kind of goes out of their mind, and then they forget the lecture that he gave to them, and then they don't use it later on.
I could see, well, I can't really see why, but why I think people do things like drive home drunk. I think they do it, especially when they're underage, is because they've been at a party and they can't stay there because the person's parents are going to be home. So they figure they have to drive home themselves, and that's when accidents happen.
Next, Tom continues with his story and talks about how he learned from his mistakes.
And why he believes laws exist.
The ride to the police station was particularly unpleasant because my girlfriend was sitting right beside me and she was basically screaming at me the whole time how much trouble I had gotten her in. She ended up getting a minor in possession that night and losing her license for a while. Drinking underage is an extraordinarily bad plan. It can get you in trouble. It can get you in jail. She ended up in jail for the night and her parents had to come and bail her out, and I got in a lot of trouble because obviously this was my idea to begin with. Well, my parents didn't say anything specifically. It was much more their reaction that, for the rest of the summer I had no privileges, I had no rights. I was just home all the time because they didn't trust me anymore, and that was something that really bothered me because they had always trusted me. They had always trusted me to make good decisions, and that wasn't the case, and so that was something that I had to work very hard to re-earn their trust. I feel like I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but that I've learned from those mistakes and that I've been able to go on and not repeat those mistakes again, that I've been able to mature in my faith and be able to understand better what it is that God's calling me to do, not being so selfish and not being so self-centered in every decision that I make. I'm able to look out for the interests of others. I'm able to look at how I'm able to help others. The laws exist for a reason, and they're there to protect us from ourselves. They're to protect other people from the stupid decisions that we might make, and that absolutely, if I hadn't been pulled over that night, that my life could have taken a far different course and that I could have ended up getting in a drunk driving accident weeks or years later and ended up killing someone and been in much more trouble than I was for that one night and my parents yelling at me for a couple days. That things could have been far worse had my life not changed at that particular moment.
I definitely think he's right about the whole loss of trust thing. Your parents trust you and until you prove them wrong. But once you prove them wrong, it's really, really hard to gain that trust back, So you kind of have to be careful what you do and make sure that you're worthy of your parents' trust, because once you lose it, trust is a very hard thing to get back.
That's so true. I know, it must have been really hard, after all that bashing from his parents, to step up and take control of his life again. That takes a lot of strength. And it's really impressive that he learned from that. So what were some of the consequences for your friends who broke the law, and what did they learn from the experience?
Well,
go ahead.
Okay. Someone from my old town, when they had gotten drunk, they were caught and they got charges pressed against them. The school suspended them. It was one big mess.
With my school, like I said earlier, they got caught with things in their locker. They got kicked out of the school, but then they had to go to another school, and my township is very close, and word gets around to all different schools about different people. So when they went to that school, rumors got around about them so fast that they had to make up a whole new reputation. And I just talked to the person a couple of weeks ago, and apparently their year was horrible because everyone had this pre-notion about them, and it wasn't fair because they didn't really get to know the person.
I think you have to be really careful when you're punishing someone who broke the law, because sometimes they don't know what they're doing, and you can't kick them when they're down, because if you do that, then they won't learn anything from the experience.
Yeah, I have a story about someone not learning from experience. This one girl from my school, she took her sister's car before she even had her license, and she went around town, and she was actually speeding, and then the cops chased her, and she crashed her car and totaled it. No consequences whatsoever, because I think her dad did something with the court. Like he paid a bunch of money for, like, I don't know. I think it was it was like, yeah, it was community stuff that he paid for. He paid for, like, trees planted or something like that. But, you know, she got off no consequences, and, you know, she didn't really learn a lesson.
Yeah, most of my friends just basically get away with what they do. But one of my friends who I was talking about earlier, with the vandalism and everything, he wound up, you know, getting pulled by the police, you know, and in the end run, after his parents got done with him and everything, he winds up having a record, and that could be a very bad thing for in the future.
Yeah, because like your record will always follow you, and it's harder to find jobs and go to college and all that when people find out that you've done something to break the law.
Yeah, one of my friends, he stole from a store once. I forget which one, but he stole from a store. But then the manager didn't report him to the police, but he did have to work at the store like for a month to pay off what he stole. So it's still kind of like a bad reputation thing.
Yeah, I had a friend who got drunk in a park in our town, and she was like really young, so it was really sad. Like, and she had to get her stomach pumped and everything. And after that, like she got in trouble with her family, wasn't allowed to play sports, and then like she gave the park a bad reputation or something, so the people of the park were complaining, so she had to do community service there for a while, and she got in a lot of trouble. It was a bad situation.
As Christians, sometimes we make bad choices.
Some of those are serious enough to result in a fine, a sentence of community service, probation, or even land us in jail.
The great thing is, there's always a chance to change.
For Tom, one of the things he needed to change was the people he was hanging out with.
I think the people that I hung out with in high school were by and large a bad influence in my life. I just hung out with the wrong crowd. It's always tough because you have friends and you have loyalties and you have people that you have bonds with and associations with, people that you want to hang out with and people that you have a lot of fun hanging out with. But if you're able to step back and say that, wow, this just really, you know, we're getting in a lot of trouble, we're doing a lot of illegal things, we're going out and drinking every single weekend or whatever the case is, that's definitely a situation where you should step back and try to reassess your life and try to find different friends or try to find a different direction for your life, because it will end up getting you in a lot of trouble eventually.
It's so easy to be caught up in the moment when you're hanging with friends. Peer pressure can be very powerful.
The easiest and most important choice we can make to keep ourselves out of the situations in the first place is choosing our friends carefully.
Proverb 24, verse 26 tells us that an honest answer is the sign of true friendship.
Good friends can help us to make the right choices and stay out of trouble.
So, do you guys think that there's a relationship between the people you hang out with and the amount of trouble you find yourself getting into?
Peer pressure is a really big issue with kids getting in trouble, but my feeling is, in the end, it is your choice to do, like, the drugs or to drink and drive and everything. I mean, sure, they'll, like, coax you, but you can say no, but it is your choice in the end to do it. So I guess it kind of leans both ways.
Yeah, but you have a higher chance of getting in more trouble when we hang out with, like, the bad group than with people you know who won't, like, push you into doing bad things.
I know, like, around me, it's the straight edge people have often, like, there's like one in each group of friends that, like, you have a problem, you know, just kind of hanging out with friends because they're always, oh, let's go drink or something like that, and you kind of have to be, you know, like, a lot of times they won't even invite you, even though you're like, oh, I'll come, I'm just not going to do anything, you know, but it's just a lot of times you don't really hang out with people as much, and you don't really experience the full relationship with everybody that the other kids have, so that can be hard, you know, to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, I have friends that will pressure me to do bad things like drinking or drugs, and they say, you know, you're missing out on being a teenager, you're missing out on high school. And I say, I could be a teenager without drinking and doing drugs.
Hanging around with the right crowd can help us to stay out of trouble's way.
Let's see what other advice the teens on the street had concerning this.
Well, I don't want to get in trouble. I want to have a good future. So, you know, that's pretty much a lesson enough to obey laws.
I just stay out of trouble because, you know, I can go to jail. I don't want to go to jail.
Avoid peer pressure and just do you. Just do what you want to do. Stay out of trouble. Like, I learned from my mistakes. I've been locked up before, and I just ain't trying to go back. I'm trying to stay with my family, people I love.
You know, I haven't been in trouble with the law, but I've had a lot of problems. So my advice is just talk to someone. You know, if your parents aren't there for you, talk to a friend. It was really a teacher that at my school that really helped me out.
Think about what you're doing in like a grander sense instead of just at the moment. Like a lot of the stuff you might be doing makes a lot more sense to not do it if you think back on it a little bit instead of just acting.
Don't do anything that can get you in trouble, because that's how you get in trouble.
Just don't do drugs. Don't do drugs and drink.
Don't drink, don't do drugs, you know.
Keep yourself clean and don't put yourself in a bad situation.
Find something peaceful to do and not be bored.
Yeah, don't roam the town looking for something to do. Get a job.
Listen to your parents, because they've been through it before and they know what they're talking about, even if you think they don't. And if you don't have parents, listen to your guardian. Or if you have older siblings, listen to them.
Don't get yourself in a bad situation. It's the best advice I've ever heard.
Yep, the best way to avoid a situation is not to get involved in it. Next, Tom will tell us how that particular moment changed the entire course of his life.
He also shares how God and faith can help.
When we got in trouble with the drinking when I was a senior in high school, and that was definitely a moment, a watershed moment, a moment where I changed my course and my direction and decided that the way that I was living my life really wasn't very productive, and that I needed to look to God. I needed to look to something other than the materialistic things and the self-serving things that I had always lived my life by. I put other people in jeopardy because I wanted to go out and have a good time. And in terms of my faith, it's much, you know, one of the teachings is that you're supposed to put the interests of others first. You're supposed to be thinking of others' feelings and thoughts and being mindful of when you're putting others in jeopardy. And I didn't consider any of that. I just decided this is what I wanted to do and this was what was going to happen. And I didn't care what the consequences were. The best advice is going to be to not put yourself in that position to begin with, to not be doing things that are illegal to start out with. But if you find yourself in that situation, then it's really something where you have to trust in God that He will get you through whatever trouble you've gotten yourself into and be able to have an opportunity to learn from that and to not make that mistake again when you're in the same situation. If you think you're in a situation where you're getting in a lot of trouble, then you should definitely pray and, you know, pray for wisdom, pray for guidance, pray for a better way to do things or a different way to live your life. You know, people have certainly done far more serious things than I have, and, you know, everyone's situation is specific to their own life, but that you're always able to go back and ask for God's forgiveness and be able to understand that it will be granted to you, and that it's something that anyone can achieve if they're able to accept God in their lives.
So, what advice do you guys have for someone who has been in trouble with the law?
I would say just to consider the consequences. I mean, it can affect like the course of your life if it's serious enough. It really can affect how the rest of your life is lived, how people view you. So I would just think before you act is what I would say.
And if you've actually come through an experience where you've gotten in trouble with the law, explain to others, like, you know, what happened to you and what can happen, things that can happen that are worse.
Yeah, I think just live respectfully, live responsibly, and have good relationships. Don't hang out with the wrong people. If you know they're a bad crowd, stay away.
You shouldn't dwell on the things that you've done wrong. Instead, you should try to be positive about what happened and think about how you can make sure that things like this never happen again.
Yeah, for those who find it hard to make the right decisions, they can turn to prayer and God to help them down the right path.
I really like what you were saying about not dwelling on it, because you have to learn from it, but you can't just live on that moment forever, because God is going to forgive you, you know, and He'll give you that second chance. And to make yourself feel even better, you can go to confession, get it off your chest, and you know, after going to confession, it feels really good because you don't have to worry about it for the rest of your life. And just because, you know, you broke the law once doesn't mean you're gonna break the law again and again in the future. just because you made one mistake doesn't make you who you are in the future.
Yeah, you kind of have to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what, I'm starting over from here. It doesn't matter who I was back then. I am starting over. I'm this new guy, new me, and anything's possible.
Relient K's song, Who I Am Hates Who I've Been, is a good example of living with the consequences of wrong decisions and the desire to change.
The lyrics read, sorry for the person I became. I'm sorry that it took so long for me to change.
I'm ready to try and never become that way again, because who I am hates who I've been.
What it's saying is that first we have to admit what we did was wrong. We have to be sorry for it, and we must do whatever it takes to change our ways.
When we're ready to do this, the sacrament of reconciliation is a great way to begin and ask for God's help to reform.
We believe God forgives us and gives us the grace we need to change our lives.
Everyone can experience this forgiveness and make a new start.
The Catholic Catechism says, "There is no one, however wicked and guilty, who may not confidently hope for forgiveness, provided his repentance is honest."
Christ, who died for all men, desires that in his church, the gates of forgiveness should always be open to anyone who turns away from sin.
The important points of this are to accept responsibility for what you've done and be honest in your desire to repent.
And repentance means change.
Do you have a story of changing your life after being in trouble with the law that you'd like to share with us?
Send it to us at our website.
The address is www.realfaithtv.com.
Or you can call us at 609-406-7402.
Remember to ask God to give you the grace to make good choices.
Use your time and talents in constructive ways.
Be grateful for what you have.
And secure in your dignity as a child of God.
This is your life, a precious gift from the God who loves you.
What you do with it is your choice.
Make it count.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV. God bless.